Welcome to part two of my interview with author David Kier. We're talking about the missions of Baja California. And in the first half, we spoke about some of the lore and the history of those missions in Baja California. And in the second half, we're going to talk more about David's own experience going down and visiting these historical, fascinating spots. So I hope you will enjoy it. And let's get right to it. Tell me one of the most interesting stories that jumped out at you during your research on the Baja California missions.
There are so many. Each mission really has a story to tell. There probably could be a book written by each mission. Some missions only lasted a few years, and others lasted, 90 years or more. And so they're all there. It's hard to pinpoint any one. Probably the most interesting thing that people like to talk about are these lost mission legends. And the idea of the lost mission legends came about when the Jesuits were removed, and there's a rumor that they had advance notice of this exodus happening to them, and they they took all of their treasures, so-called treasures, which I don't believe they ever had, but altar vestments, candle pieces, whatever, candelabras, whatever, gold and pearls, because pearls were very prevalent in Baja California's waters back in those days, and that brought a lot of the Spanish pirates and pearlers over and used the natives to dive for the pearls and so forth. So they knew there was lots of pearls. There were black pearls, which are really shiny gray color, actually, but they're called black pearls. And that could be true, that they had pearls that were gifts or altar pieces or whatever. And Loreto had supposedly a famous pearl collection, and that had vanished. So this is where the treasure legends came from. There are two predominant lost missions in Baja California. One is in the Sierra de Santa Clara, which is near San Ignacio on the Pacific side of the peninsula, about midway down, if you see my map here. Right about near here is Punta Abreojos. And just inland from there is a strange-looking mountains. They're very bizarre-looking, Martian-looking mountains, if you will. And supposedly that's where the lost mission of Santa Clara is located. And then the Jesuit map of 1757 actually shows a mission there called San Juan Bautista. And these were one of the proposed missions that weren't really built, but on the map it says they were started. So San Juan Bautista at the Santa Clara Mountains was one. Another one was called Santa Maria Magdalena, and that is south of Bahia de Los Angeles and north of the border between northern and southern Baja California. There are two states that make up Baja California, you were asking earlier. And then the third one is the most famous, is called the Lost Mission of Santa Isabel. And this is the one where they said the Jesuits hoarded their treasures and found a canyon beyond Mission Santa Maria. And then it created a landslide to hide the canyon, and quite an elaborate story. But so many people, beginning in the really early 1900s to probably the 1960s or maybe 70s, went exploring for this lost mission based on that data, looking for where there's a water hole or a spring, and looking for this supposed lost mission. Sadly, they've damaged walls looking for treasures. And Mission Santa Maria is a good example, where in its adobe walls, which were built by the Franciscans. Now, the Santa Maria mission was founded by the Jesuits, but they're only there for a few months before they were removed. The Franciscans arrived, and the padre for that mission, Padre Beita, he said, "Oh, this is inadequate," because the Jesuits just built a mission out of palm tree logs and thatched roof, from what we know. And he had a proper mission built of adobe. And it's that adobe mission that there's still standing walls, at least the front and back of it with the doorway. And on my book's cover is the doorway of that mission, Santa Maria. And that was built by the Franciscans, yet people looking for the Jesuit treasures dug into those walls. And it wasn't even built by the Jesuits, so that's how bad the information was for people.
Wow.
So that's a sad part about the mission lore is that it's great to go for looking. And I've done a fun lost mission hunt with my friends, and we knew there's no lost missions. It's a way for the guys to get together and go hiking in the canyon in Baja, and we did that too in 2011.
So what state are the missions in? I know here in Alta California, we had the whole mission revival where a lot of the missions were actually rebuilt or at least improved from the state they were in. I know that some of the missions, I think you mentioned some of the missions in Baja are in good shape. Others are deteriorating. What's the general aspect of them now?
Well, there are 8 missions that are intact, if you will, original Spanish mission period construction. Redo was the one that's had the most repairs done to it with a new roof and this fancy new bell tower, new in 1955. The other missions, San Borja, Santa Gertrudis, San Luis Gonzaga, which is not the bay name, but it's actually a mission closer to La Paz in southern Baja. They remained intact, and church services held there, and some still held there. San Jose de Comandú all have great stories. But Comandú, for instance, its mission was in such disrepair that it was the largest California mission in interior square footage, with just massive arches overhead and so forth. From earthquakes or just disuse or lack of maintenance, it was a very dangerous place. And in the early 1900s, there's photos of the doorways filled up with rocks or blocks to block kids from going in there or people going in there and having something fall on them and killing them. And in 1936, supposedly a general ordered it demolished and dynamited it, except for the side chapel. The side chapel was preserved to remain as one place where the church could be, church services could continue to be held. And that today is what's identified as the mission. But the original mission at Comandú is much, much larger. And I've got some old photos, black and white photos of it from the 1920s and 1906. And when a writer went down there for taking photos. And so they're in disrepair. And then the missions north of San Borja, Santa Maria, San Fernando, El Rosario, Santo Domingo, San Vicente, Santo Tomas, etc., were all made of adobe, and it hadn't gone any further. Baja missions that were stone were adobe at one time, churches, chapels, and they were replaced with stone missions if they were successful at the time. The Jesuits and the Dominicans too, wanted to make a more elaborate, fancy, solid structure, a house of God, so it had to be great. And so there are those stone missions, but most of the missions were adobe. And of course, once you remove the roof of an adobe building, the rain contacts it and winds and eats it away. So the northern Baja California missions started melting away, and some of them are just slumps of adobe now. But there's been some preservation at some of these northern Dominican missions where they've put a plaster coating on them. Now, I went down this last May with a friend and re-examined several of the northern Baja missions, and I see even some of this plaster coating has broken away, and the original adobe is once again showing. So nothing's permanent, nothing lasts forever, as they say. And sadly, the northern Baja missions and any of the southern missions that were made of adobe are in very bad shape. But some were turned into park-like settings with informative signs, walkways, and made into like a park. And several of these missions are, and it's interesting to go and do the walk. And some of these signs are in English too, if you don't read Spanish. And now in Alta California, San Diego North, these missions up here, and I live very close to Mission Santa Luis Rey in Oceanside. They were also adobe and in pretty much bad repair by the turn of the century. But here in the United States, America's California, we had better financing. We had women's groups that got together historians and put together the funding to fix these missions, repair them, and bring them back to a church like a modern or like a mission church, like it might have looked like in some, like I think even San Rafael or Sonoma. The original mission, Adobe mission, was totally gone, and you had to just guess what it looked like. And but there's churches there now that represent the missions, and some are partially the old mission, and some are just all brand new. But Mexico didn't have the ability to do this in the degree that the America could with Alta California missions.
So you, if I understand correctly, you knew Harry Crosby, the famous Baja explorer. Could you tell us a little bit, first of all, who he was and your relationship with him?
Sure. Now, we've met and chatted together. I got a picture of him and I in my book when I went to his home before he stopped seeing visitors. That was in 2019, and he recently passed away. Gee, I think he was 97. But anyway, Harry Crosby was a photographer and a teacher at a school in La Jolla in San Diego County. And a friend of mine actually was in one of his classes. But so he was a teacher, instructor, and he took his kids on field trips to Mexico, his students. And he was hired to do a book to do photographs for a book about the El Camino Real. It was called Call to California. And I got that book as a kid. And I just loved it. I said, "Oh, this is wonderful." And I just dreamed of, because he had photographs of the Mission Trail in Baja California. And you can still see the Mission Trail in Baja California where it isn't eroded away or overgrown completely by cactus and brush. And that just thrilled me to no end. I wanted to travel the El Camino Real, the original Jesuit and beyond El Camino Reals. And only hiked a few miles of it in a few places. It was a thrill of mine even as a kid. So I became fascinated with Harry Crosby's work on that book called To California. And then he did his book, The King's Highway in Baja California, which was kind of going back over that trip he was hired as a photographer for in 67. And this new book was in 74 that was published. And he went back, I think, with one of his students and re-examined parts that he had missed earlier and wanted to just check out the things again. So that book was great, and I've got that, of course, too. I got all Harry's books on that he's written, I think, on Baja California. So I met him probably first in I think it was 2002. There was a book author event in Baja California at a resort near Rosarito Beach. And Harry was there, and that's when I first met him. And I got a picture of us meeting, and I was just this bubbly kid. Of course, I was already in my 50s, I think, or 40s. I was in my 40s, and I was you can see the excitement in my face meeting Harry Crosby, and that was a great time. And I've since met him again when his new book, Gateway to Alta California, his last book, which, unfortunately, I think the name was poorly chosen because Gateway to Alta California, you're thinking it's about Alta California. No, it's about Baja California between Mission San Fernando de Calicata and San Diego, that last section, because that was kind of quickly done for his book in 1974, The King's Highway in Baja California. And so it wasn't really truly researched in any kind of great degree. He and others totally mapped out the route by using historical writings from the Serra expedition to San Diego in 1769 and logically found the route that was taken based on matching up points and so forth. And that's what Gateway to Alta California is about. And I highly recommend that book. It's got all the details and the biography of the people who were on that expedition, who became the first settlers in San Diego, if you will. So it's an excellent book. And please don't, if you're a Baja California fanatic, don't let the name Gateway to Alta California fool you. It's about Baja California almost entirely. So I was with him when that book was introduced at the end of 2003, I think it was, when we had at the Presidio, at the Serra Museum at the Presidio in San Diego. And I was there with Harry at that. And then, like I said, my last meeting was Harry's at his home in La Jolla. And he was still very mentally sharp, and we discussed things, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful meeting. And I'm so glad I had the opportunity, because shortly after that, COVID hit, and his daughter, overseeing his well-being, he and his wife, who lived still together in that home, shut off almost all connection. And a friend of mine who does podcasts called the Slow Baja podcast, he went there to record Harry. And unfortunately, the conditions, because of COVID, he had this so far apart from him, the microphone picked up too much noise from cars going by, and it was just totally unusable. But it was too bad. But that was his last meeting, probably in 2020, with anyone outside the family.
Yeah, I think Harry Crosby was, I've never met him, but I do have his books, and I think he was one of these legendary figures in California history, the history of the Californias, and it's just great that you have that connection to him. Are there any other interesting people that you've known in your connection to Baja California and its history that have inspired you or that have been models for you?
Yeah, it was quite a few. There are quite a few authors. There are authors that all have, and like I said, Howard Gulick of the Lower California Guidebook, who I did meet when I was a kid. And he signed my family's copy of the Lower California Guidebook. As a matter of fact, he told me why he signed it where he did, right above his printed name on the title page. And that's where I sign my book to people when I autograph it. And it's probably a common thing for authors to do. You can't read handwriting, but you can read the name in print. Anyway, so Howard Gulick is one, and Coral Pepper, as I mentioned, is another. She was marvelous. I became close friends for her before she succumbed to her cancer at her home in Colorado, in Coronado, San Diego Bay Area, and so many others. Greg Newman did the book Baja Legends, and he and I became friends and met each other many times. And he just published a new book this last year called Beyond Baja Legends, sort of a follow-up book with more people. So that's Greg Neiman. Geez, so many authors. Tom Miller, the author of the Baja book, which was the first book after the highway was finished, after my little booklet when I was 16 or 15. Gee, I look at them. I'm looking here on my bookshelves, and it just, there's just so many. They all inspire me to a great degree, and I try to emulate them in sharing some passion. And I guess I'm loaded with passion for Baja, because I'm a Baja addict. I've got, a lifetime of Baja, and each time I go down there, even if I go to the same places I've been to before, it's like a brand new experience for me, because things change. You want to get refreshing your mind, especially at an older age. You want to say, "Oh yeah, I remember that," and it just makes me more enthusiastic about it. And I still, I have a website, vivabaja.com. That's all one word, Viva Baja. And
Okay,
I
we'll
have
link
all my
that.
trip photo albums are in there. All my book collection, the cover of all my 400 plus Baja California books are in there, and links to other websites are in there. So, and of course, as I said, I still have an interest in writing road logs and stuff. And this is a prototype, a copy, my Baja California road guide, and it never got published. It was done for a Mexican auto insurance company, and they actually financed my travels to research that book. Research actually a photograph mission to take photographs and notes. And while I was doing this photographing mission, I took highway notes where the kilometer marker was for different roads and et cetera, and made this guidebook from it. But it didn't get published. But I have an online version on my vivabaja.com website, so you can see all my road log work and photographs all over Baja California for that guidebook is in there.
So you're still going down regularly to Baja California.
Well, not as often. Getting out isn't quite as easy for me, and have some obligations here. We have my wife's mother living with us now. She's almost 92. And so we're taking care of
Right.
her. And, these things happen. But
Yeah,
I
no,
did get
that's
to take this
important.
trip in May. Once a year, hopefully, and maybe more at some day. But yeah, I had a great lifetime. 55, 60 plus years of Baja California travels. So I've been very fortunate.
What do you recommend to people who want to go to Baja California, visit the missions today?
It's easy probably to have an itinerary. Don't stick by it. Be flexible because things do change. Roads get closed, or some of the missions have gates around them, and sometimes they're locked. You can't get into them. Like Mission San Miguel, which is near Ensenada, is in a schoolyard or next to a school, and there's a fence around it. And my friend and I went there. It was a Saturday, but the gate to get on the mission grounds, if you will, was locked. But I just took pictures through the chain link fence, and could update my photos that way. So be flexible. Have an itinerary. I do have a web page, and you can see the link on my vivabaja.com site. It's called a quick look at the emissions. It goes from north to south, not in the order they were founded. My book is in the order they were founded, so it's like a, chrono, chronology of the missions from the first to the last. And I include the discovery of California by the Spanish first. Then I include where Padre Kino of Sonora and Arizona mission fame, he came to Baja California too, to two different places to attempt to establish a mission, but more of establish a foothold. One was at La Paz, and the other was just north of Laredo at a place called San Bruno. Until recently, the ruins of the fort that was on top of this hill at San Bruno were still standing, what's left from it. And unfortunately, a couple of years ago, a landowner there cleared away the top of this hill, destroyed the original stuff, and tried to recreate it by restacking the rock walls in the shape of it was a triangular shaped fort at San Bruno.
Oh,
And
no.
so you got to go there, and you got to, things are going to change. And so I'm so thankful that I got to go to San Bruno and see it before the original stuff was gone. And I've got all this stuff inside me. I just want to share it. And that's what my website and my Facebook pages, my Viva Baja and my Baja Missions Facebook groups are about to share the excitement with others and let them share their excitement too with everybody.
So any concerns security-wise for people traveling down to Baja these days?
Always a concern. Even in the United States, I wouldn't go camping in the backstreet of Los Angeles. So don't go camping in the backstreet of Tijuana or Ensenada. Find a nice, beautiful, either a public, occupied camping area, if that makes you feel comfortable, or be away from where anyone can see you on the highway in case there are any bad people looking to cause trouble. And it's going to happen everywhere. But I've been traveling Baja for, like I said, 1 year, and I've never, ever had a bad experience. I had some nervous times maybe when a car came by where I didn't think there'd be any cars, but it was just another camper going to the beach or something. You have to live life. And if I'm going to stay sheltered in my home because I'm scared, how is that living? I want to live. And so I'll take the chance. And Baja California to me is still worth that chance. And yeah, you just be smart, be intelligent where you pick, if you're going to camp or stay at a hotel or motel, and there's plenty of them on the peninsula now, or an established campground. Just be intelligent, use your best judgment. And for me, it's always worked out.
So would you recommend a four-wheel drive vehicle, for example, or is that not necessary?
Well, I do because I'm a four-wheeler from the very beginning, but only a couple missions really require four-wheel drive to get to. Santa Maria is probably the toughest road in Baja California, especially now. It's just getting worse and worse since it was built in the end of the early 1960s. And it's just a really rough, like the Rubicon Trail near Lake Tahoe, probably worse than that. Now I did that last in 2022, so just 3 years ago. So a four-wheel drive isn't absolutely necessary, but a truck, a van, large van, SUV by all means. Four-wheel drive is a great insurance, but I always, when I talk about four-wheeling, I always tell everybody, make sure you know to deflate your tires if you have a situation or you need to cross soft sand. Even a two-wheel drive vehicle can cross soft sand if enough air is let out of the tires. So don't be afraid to deflate your tires till they bulge, and you'll get across that sand. Keep up your momentum. Don't stop in the middle of it if you're two-wheel drive, and you'll be fine, and from my experience. And if you get stuck, even after you deflate more. You can go down as low as 5 pounds, get out of your situation, and have, of course, a air pump. I use a kind of clip onto the battery terminals, a very fast air pump that fills up your tires in a couple of minutes, each tire, and then you'll be fine.
I remember when I lived in Southern California, we would oftentimes go down to Northern Baja. I never went down to Southern Baja, which I would love to do one of these days. Um, we always used to buy insurance in Mexico when we crossed the border. Is that something that is still done today or recommended?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your U.S. policies um, don't cover liability in Mexico. It'll cover some policies will cover up to 50 miles down from the border for any collision damage, but there's no liability. And so you have to have Mexican liability insurance. And my go-to insurance company is bajabound.com. It's all online. You can print out your policy at home before your trip for whenever days you want it to be valid for. And they're the ones that sponsor my writings. I write a monthly article for their online Baja Bound bulletin almost every month, and mostly on the missions, but also about historical people and travel notes. And a link to my articles. I've got over 100 and I think it's 120 articles, 121 articles I've written for them the last few years now, and they're just short articles with photos and maps sometimes, and so Baja Bound is my go-to company. There are other ones though, and several of them all use top name Mexican companies. They're American brokers in this case that sell Mexican auto insurance by agreement, and they give you great service, and that's who I use.
So you can purchase even before you go down.
Yeah, yeah. Because once you cross into Mexico, you're in Mexico, and if you
Yeah,
have an accident before you get to an insurance dealer in Mexico, oops. So
good
get your
point.
insurance. If you don't want to get it online from Baja Bound or other companies online, a lot of them sell online. There are Mexican insurance sales at the border in San Isidro or Calexico or Tecate before you cross over into Mexico. But the online is obviously the way to go, easy. Of course, the other thing when you cross into Mexico, you do need to stop at the border. It's usually called the something to declare lane. So in San Isidro, it's the far right lane. You got to pull over and you walk into a room. That's the INM, which is Immigration and Naturalization of Mexico, if in English, an INM office to get your FMM. It's like a visa, not truly a visa, but it's a traveler's permit, if you will, for non-Mexican citizens, in this case, American and Canadian citizens. So you get your FMM. It's free for up to 7 days in Mexico, which covers probably most of the situation. 180-day or half a year FMM is about $40 roughly right now at the exchange rate. And that's good for multiple trips and then in and out from Mexico. So that's it. So Mexican auto insurance and the tourist permit, the FMM, is required. And after that, go have a taco. Enjoy yourself.
Thanks, David. Just to finish up, what do you think we in the United States and in U.S. California could better understand about Baja California, our relation to it? What misconceptions are there, or what's the biggest misconception that we can sort of dispel by learning more about Baja California and its history?
Well, to me, in my case, it's the fact that California started in Baja California. That was the first California. The California mission started in Baja California, Florida, and then came north, and this is all California. That the Baja is a land of all cactus and desert. It isn't. There's mountains up to 10,000 feet high with pine forests, aspen trees. It's beautiful, and that's in northern Baja California. And then the area south of San Diego, as far as about San Quintin, is very much the San Diego-style Mediterranean climate, and it's the east side. San Felipe and south is desert, and eventually south of San Quintin or south of El Rosario uh, meets up at the bottom of the mountain range of the San Pedro Martir, the Pine Forest Mountains. It all becomes desert, and then there's tropical oases. There's where water is, and now you're getting down in the tropics. Matter of fact, southern Baja California is at the same latitude as Hawaii. So you and the Big Island are in the same latitude. It's the Tropic of Cancer, and at noon on June 21st, the sun is, over your head and you have no shadow. So that's in southern Baja California. And then you get tropical, there's coconuts that grow in trees down there. And of course, mangoes by the loads, those wonderful mangoes and papayas. And you feel like you're in a tropical paradise. So it's a desert tropical mix in the south half, some tropical oases kind of scattered throughout, and then a Southern California climate in the northwest and a desert climate on the northeast with pine forest mountains from the American border south, 200 plus miles. There's pine forests and beautiful mountains. Got everything there.
Sounds amazing. David, I don't want to keep you any longer. This has been great, and thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom. I would say to everybody who's watching or listening, go to vivabaja.com, get the book, right? Baja California, Land of Missions, and also follow David in his Facebook group and all the other places where he's at. Is that right, David?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Facebook has kind of taken over. There used to be well, there still is a discussion forum called Baja Nomad, and that's still there. But it's really Facebook has kind of sucked away a lot of the old forum style chat room stuff, and Facebook is where it's happening. And Mexicans use Facebook for websites, if you will, to advertise their businesses, their motels. They're big on Facebook in Mexico, and so you can see Facebook pages for everything in Baja California too, to make arrangements and so forth. So, and
Well, that's great.
people can contact me through my website, email addresses on my website, info@vivabaja.com. And I'm happy to answer questions for you guys. You just drop me a note and I'll do the best I can to give you what I think is a good answer. And I won't make up one. I'll let you know if I don't know.
That's great. David, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And everybody, go to Baja California. It's worth it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the California Frontier Show. If you'd like to support the show, the best thing to do is to let other people know about it. If you'd like to support it monetarily, there are a couple ways of doing that. One is by scrolling down in your podcast app to where it says support the show. There you can become a subscriber for as little as $3 a month. And if you want to give a one-time donation, just below you'll see where it says give a one-time donation. Finally, the show is supported by California History Teachers, which is a full year of lessons for 4th grade California history and social studies. You can find out more at www.californiahistoryteachers.com. And if you input the coupon code PODCAST, you'll receive 25% off your monthly or annual subscription. So check it out.